Okay, we're back. So as I was getting ready for this, I realized one thing I forgot to talk about with the My IT Lab. Or no, I did it. Actually, what I forgot to talk about with classwork was how much does it account for your grade? The question maybe I have for you now is, do you remember how much the My IT Lab was? And the answer is 30%. Now, how do we find that information, right? Remember, it's in the all-important syllabus in our class. And one thing about syllabus is, like, hopefully you're getting used to, oh, I already had it open, is that when you scroll down here, right, you'll see this is a Google Doc. There's our schedule. So classwork accounts for 20%. There's 17 of them, so each one is worth 18%. My IT Lab, there's 15 of them. Each one is worth 2%. Okay, so now we're going to talk about chapter quizzes. So in your notes, hopefully you have a new heading here. Your new heading would be chapter quizzes. And in this case, start with the fact that it accounts for 20% of your grade. So if you take in chapter quizzes and My IT Lab, this is a repeat of information, by the way, that accounts for 50% of your grade. And then you need the materials to complete these. Okay, so now let's actually turn to here and take a look at the chapter quizzes. Okay, so I'm going to come over here, and here are the chapter quizzes listed. Okay, but let's go back to this concept of the calendar, right? So in the calendar, when you have your first one due, and the one thing I don't like about this calendar, which by the way I didn't say this about in My IT Lab, is when you get to the My IT Lab stuff, it doesn't take you to the item. So let me see if I can show you that. So right here, chapter 1, it just shows you that you need to complete this, and you will know when it says Word, that means My IT Lab, okay? But when you're doing chapter quizzes, which let's say we have week 3, well, actually the first one is here, week 2. Yeah, so the one thing I don't necessarily like about the way this calendar sometimes, or not, the way it works, is that you don't see I wish you could see the whole list of item, or the whole text of the item, but you can't, right? So in this case, our first item is, here it is. Okay, so our first chapter quiz, that's what I was looking for. So in this case, it takes you right to, like it does with the classwork, it takes you right to the item. And by now you should be going, oh, this is a Google Doc, right? So now this Google Doc is the same, right? So for all of the chapter quizzes, the information about how to do the chapter quizzes is the same, because there's really no difference in the way they work. Each one obviously covers a different chapter. So, and it shows you 30. So in here, 30 randomly selected questions from the publisher's test banks, right? You can take it as many times as you want up until the due date. If you don't complete it by the due date, I will put a 0 in it. You can still complete it, and I'll show you this in a minute, but what will happen is it will be late, okay? So let's go back here. Oh, not me. Let's go back here. So now that we know that, right, and we're going to click begin. Now this can, I noticed as I was, and by the way, I've totally redesigned this class from the scratch. I didn't take a course from last time I taught it and roll it. Sometimes that's what instructors do. I built this one from the beginning. So one of the things I thought this would be helpful, this concept of clicking here, can be a little confusing. So in this case, what we'll do is begin. So we begin the exam. So the test can be saved, and actually shows this, right? And it shows you here the instruction as well. So here are the questions, right? So this test can be taken many attempts. It can be saved and done, submitted later, right? So there's 30 questions here. Okay, so we'll look at that, right? So now I'm not going to go through and take this in front of you, because that just wouldn't make sense, right? So let's just answer a couple of them. Oh, Google Glass, which by the way I have and I'll show off in class someday, is actually projected through the retina, right? The results of leisure time and available tools to engage in Oh, that's a good question. I think this is cognitive surplus in this case, right? So in this case, you might wonder, well, how are you answering these? So this now goes back to My IT Lab, right? It goes back to what I talked about before with the chapter quizzes, right? So in My IT Lab, if you want to get the ebook, now you can have the regular textbook here as well, but if you're going to the ebook, you go to My IT Lab, you go to the ebook, and if depending on how you want to look at it, whether it be on an iPad, I'm not sure, I'll have to check this out, what the difference between the enhanced one is and the regular textbook. and I'm not even sure what the print is. So when I clicked on the just eText, I got this. So one thing you can do here is you can search, and you can search by chapter, which is kind of cool. And you can read the chapter, which, by the way, let me just say this, I highly recommend reading the chapter. Then when you take the quiz, it will help you assess how well you understood the information provided. Okay? Now, I can't ensure in any way that you do that. Okay, and I don't do quizzes like some instructors do, where you have a timed exam, you only take it within this amount of time. I really use the chapter quizzes as a way for you to get to the course material, and really it'll provide you a context for having conversation and doing other things in class that we do. So it really provides you that context for understanding this course, Computer Concepts. Okay, so let me come back over here. Alright, so let's just say, and I, by the way, don't recommend doing this, but by the way, did you notice? It saved each one. So if I wanted to just hit save and submit, I could, or if I wanted to hit save all answers, at this point, it saved everything and I could go out of it. And I'm actually going to do that because I want you to see how it looks in my grade, right? And it's going to warn me, hey, you're navigating away from here, is this what you want to do? I'm going to say, leave this page. Okay, and I believe Blackboard, let's see if it did this. Okay, so look down here. So we can see chapter 2 is in progress, right? And if I wanted to go back into it, I'd go to chapter quizzes. I'd go to, oh, and by the way, notice, it actually shows me here, right? You left off if you want to return it, right? Hit return, save, and submit. So I'm going to, oh, and by the way, I just did what I warned you not to do, so it happens. So go back in here, and then hit continue. And then this will have saved what you started with. You can also, and if you need to, print these quizzes out so that you could have them offline if you wanted to take the quiz. But ultimately, you have to bring those answers back into Blackboard because that's where they live. Okay? So I'm not going to do the rest of these, but I am just going to show you how it works in your Blackboard course. I'm going to hit save and submit, and it's going to say, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, you haven't completed everything, I know. So then it says, okay, and by the way, you got to scroll down here and hit okay. And now when you're reviewing this, it will show you, right, if you got it right, you got a point. If you got it wrong, right, you got 0 points. But it doesn't show you the correct answers. It's your job to go find the correct answers, okay? All right, so let's go look at now that we've seen the quiz, let's actually go look at chapter quizzes now. Oh, sorry, go look at my grade. And under my grade, now instead of that percentage, I actually see, right? I'm sorry, instead of in progress, I see an actual percentage, right? Now, here's what you can do. If you don't like your grade, which I don't like my grade for that one, I would take it again. So I'd come back in here, I would hit begin, right? And it's going to say you completed it, if you start a new submission. Okay, cool. So if I start a new submission, right? Notice that I'm getting different questions now, right? So I now have a different list of questions for that chapter, right? Digital art, we'll just do a couple more here. Illustrator, notice how it will save it, right? Solutions for physical health would be biomedical, right? So now this one I've done too. Let's quit. The question would be, I'm not going to, again, spend your time on the video walking through how to do all those. How many did I get this time, right? So here's what I want you to know. I actually got, oh, I think I got the same number. So what I was trying to show you may not have necessarily, but I can just talk about it, right? So in this case, what this saves, right? So I want you to know this. The highest attempt of a quiz. So if you took it 4 times and the 3rd time you got the highest, but the 4th time you got one lower, it will save in Blackboard your highest attempt. Okay, that's what I wanted you to know about that particular part of our class. Okay, so we've talked about chapter quizzes, we've talked about how to find them, we've talked about the ebook. Hopefully you're still working on your classwork here and taking notes and putting some of the things that we've covered inside of your notes for this particular item. I'm trying to think of anything else we would have about chapter quizzes. I don't think so. I think we're good, so we'll move on to the next video.